Hello, everybody out there in comic book land. My name is George Serrano, aka The Don, and if you're watching this, you can only be here for one reason. It's a brand new episode of Major Discourse, where we talk to the people inside the comic book media and see what makes them tick. I am never alone. I am joined by the fantastic Frank Jerome. Frank, let the people know what's up.
What's up, everybody?
And we are super excited here today, ladies and gentlemen. In our midst, we have the crown jewel of the Image Talent Search and DC's 2022 Round Robin Tournament, the fearless mensch of the West Michigan area, the creator of the Cosmeteers, the confidant of Count Dracula, the fearless, the super, the Mighty Morphin Rider of Tomorrow, talking to a couple of schlubs, Mr. Kenny Porter. Kenny, how the heck are you?
I'm doing a lot better after that intro. If you could intro me everywhere that I go, like whether I'm just entering the grocery store or anywhere else, that would be fantastic for me. So thank you for the warm welcome. I really appreciate it.
Just an email, send what your theme song is, so we just have it queued,
Heck yeah,
get the pyro ready, and get the people really going.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of wanted to talk to you about so much of the books that you're covering right now that are on the tip of everybody's tongue and some of the projects that you'll be coming out very soon. But going back a little bit,
Sure.
I know you were a 90s kid, which means you grew up right in the part of the comic landscape that was shifting massively. Stuff like Image coming out and then, big things like Nightfall and the death of Superman. With your work on Superboy, the Man of Tomorrow, what was your personal connection to Connor Kent back then? And do you remember your exact reaction to the whole death of Superman phenomenon when it was unfolding in real time?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, it was so big because it was on the news. Like everybody's parents were talking about it. Like it was such a big thing. And I'd been a Superman fan for a while because I really loved the old Fleischer cartoons.
They still hold up. Those things
Yeah,
are
they're so great.
gorgeous.
And I've been given when I was a kid like a videotape of all the Fleischer cartoons and I watched them all the time. And I saw the Christopher Reeve movie on TV all the time and stuff. So when Death of Superman happened, I was just like, what, they're killing him? Like that had never happened to me before. Like I was a little kid and it really pulled me in. And then when they introduced like the four imposter Supermen, like I thought Steel was so cool. I was like, what's the deal with the Eradicator? Those
Right?
crazy sunglasses. Cyborg Superman still to this day is dope looking. I don't care what
Yeah.
anybody says.
Yeah.
Is amazing. And then Connor, like Superboy, was a big deal because I didn't grow up reading the other Superboy stuff where it was just like Clark Kent when he was younger.
Yeah.
That just wasn't a part of my childhood, but Connor was my Superboy. So when they finally brought him back in, I believe in the Bendis like Young Justice series at the time,
Yeah.
I was like, what are you guys doing with him next? Because I'd done a bunch of stuff for DC at that point. And they're like, well, what do you want to do next? I was like, I want to use Connor. Like Connor's back and he's just kind of benched. He's like he's on the farm and not doing anything. Like I'd love to do something. So the chance to be able to write a character like that was introduced when I was a kid, uh, was such an honor. And I love him so much. And I love his backstory and I love how like messy it gets and stuff and how he's always been trying to find and fight his way into a spot in the DC universe. And so that's what sparked it. And I pitched them on it. It
Yeah.
wasn't originally a round robin title. Originally, it was just like I pitched it and they liked it. And then
Ah.
they asked me if I wanted to put it in the tournament. And I didn't know what any of the other books were in the tournament. So I
Hey,
felt bad that I had to go up against Green Lantern books like half the time because I'm
right.
also a huge Green Lantern fan. I was like, no, like please, like I want the book to come out, but I don't want to have to beat other people.
Yeah.
I think in the final two in the round robin tournament, they had us get on like a live thing and debate and
Oh
and I
my
was like I,
gosh.
I can't be I don't want to say one or the other, just like vote with your heart and hopefully they make both books. But I was really touched by how many people came out and supported Superboy Man of Tomorrow because it swept every single round. It
Awesome.
just felt really great we got to do it. And I still to this day, anytime I'm at a convention, I sell out of the trades like immediately. People come up dressed as Connor. Like people have given me like buttons of the word balloons
Yeah.
of like lines that mean a lot to them and stuff like that, or
100%.
like friendship bracelets. People love Connor, and I love him. And like, if I ever got a chance to work on him again, I totally would.
Yeah. What a cool sort of change of the mythos to add the Lex Luthor part of it, right? To make
Oh
him
yeah.
like half and half, which I think fundamentally ends up changing that character. But yeah, winning the round robin, incredible feat. Then you sit down and build this 6 issue like Odyssey. How much of a deep dive into the Reign of Superman did you have to do, or do you have a lot of that from your childhood fandom
I had
in
a
memory?
lot from yeah, I had a lot from my from reading it, but I did go back and reread it, like the whole prelude and then death of and then return of. And I'm glad they actually put out one of those like nice compendiums too
Yeah,
recently. So I was able to pick that up eventually because I just read it digitally then because I was like in a time crunch. Like I'm
yeah,
not gonna try to hunt down one of the omnibuses or something. So I
yeah.
read it all digitally, read it again when the compendium came out. But yeah, I went back to like pull some from some of that. I read some of his original like solo title again, like when he came
Mhm.
back, went back and read some of the Jeff Johns stuff. And then of course was following the Bendis stuff as he was introducing that and then showing up in Superman Action Comics and stuff. So I was definitely refamiliarizing myself with it and trying to make sure that I justified why he would take this adventure for those of you who haven't read it, like it's about him coming back into the DC universe and the universe had been rewritten. It was like canon that they
Yeah.
knew that time and space had been messed with. And so he came back to a world where there's like a bunch of super people in Metropolis and there isn't really room for him. And I'm a huge anime and manga fan. And so I was
Yeah.
like, I want to take him the Dragon Ball Z route and like send him into space, pit him up against stronger villains in like weird scenarios. So that was a big inspiration for Janoy Lindsay and I, the artist on the series, to send him out into space and also explore like the nature of being a clone, introduce some fun cosmic stuff. It was very inspired by my love of him. While like I try to add something new while remembering what came before.
I'm kind of like beside myself because as I was reading Man of Tomorrow, I scribbled down. I'm like, is I'm getting like real Dragon Ball Z vibes from this. The midriff with Trav.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
like that's so Trunks coded. I'm like,
totally.
the Android aspect of it. And then, spoiler alert, at one point, seemingly someone, gets to their demise and they're held in the very similar Gohan Trunks
Yeah.
sort of thing. So I didn't know if that was just my signals getting crossed, but hearing you say it out loud just makes me feel a little bit better that I
Oh yeah,
wasn't
no,
just shot in
totally. You
my
weren't
head.
crazy. It was definitely in there. It was on purpose.
Awesome, awesome. But I can totally see why people would come to you with quotes and stuff. I feel like one of the most poignant emotional threads in Man of Tomorrow is this kind of shared sentiment between Connor and Trav, who I mentioned earlier,
Hmm.
because they both kind of look at their origins and essentially say, "I'm not what you made me."
Yeah.
Like what was it like exploring that kind of specific parallel, two characters dealing with the weight of being experiments, trying to outrun their creators' intentions and taking it into kind of completely different, directions.
That was really important where I wanted to showcase the villains as not just being clones, but being like what would it be if like Superboy was raised bad? Like if he hadn't gotten out from under Luthor and everybody's thumb fast enough. It was really important to me to show that. And also just like the cool parallel of Trav being a Daxamite, which for
Yeah,
those of you who don't know are like another race of aliens who are close to Kryptonians. Get They're kind of like a 75% powered version
yeah.
of a Kryptonian, except they're weak to lead, which is like the one thing that like
Right.
is Superman's famous
Faster
for
than a
having
speeding bullet.
bullets. Yeah. Because I'd always really loved the character Sodom Yacht, who is
Yes,
from like the
yes,
Green Lantern Corps run,
yeah,
who became Ion eventually, and like I just thought he was so cool, and like the whole backstory of Daxamites and everything I thought was interesting, especially because in that backstory, like they're very isolated,
yeah,
and so putting that into Trav of him being isolated, but also feeling like he got robbed because he should have Superman-like powers, but the experiments they did on him made him a technopath. So
right,
he can control technology and stuff, but he doesn't have the strength and stuff that he should have. And part of that really fueled his jealousy of Connor, that like Connor seems way more well adjusted and also has the powers that he missed out on, which plays heavily into the ending.
yeah,
So yeah, it was really fun to explore that with them, and I as well as like the other members of the Cosmeteers who I hope to bring back someday in something. That's why I kind of
Yeah.
left them ambiguously under arrest,
Right.
possibly able to come back later as redemptive arcs if I can work it in somewhere in a DC thing. So I wanted to float those out there and keep them around. But I don't know, we may see Cyborg Superboy again sometime soon too.
I was like, they did Cyborg Superboy. Well, we had a conversation with Brian Michael Bendis, and I asked him because he's created some characters. Like, how does he feel about other people? Kind of, does he get territorial about other people writing his characters? And he
Mhm.
goes, basically, a truncated version is like, unless I wrote him packing his bag and going somewhere, you can take him wherever you want to
Oh,
go.
totally. Yeah. No,
So
if they do a big space like bad guy thing, like Cyborg Superboy should totally be in the among the team in the background. Like it's the same with the new with Superman Father of Tomorrow, the book I'm doing with Danny Earls. Like
yeah,
I've said in interviews, I was like, I hope to God that there's some multiversal event years later and that our Superman is there as like a science advisor, as like the big brain Reed
yeah,
Richards type one who's trying to like help figure it out and then get some touching moments with Clark since it's Jor-El and stuff. So yeah, totally. Like I want other people to run to it. Like we're adding to the tapestry of these, whether it's Marvel or DC or any other legacy characters, like we're adding to the tapestry of these giant things that we all love. And we want other, if we're putting toys in the toy box, we want other people to play with them.
100%. That makes a lot of sense. By the end of the book, you kind of guide Connor to this beautiful realization that we all have our own place in the universe.
Hmm.
For a character who's kind of historically felt caught between clones, legacies, replacement anxiety, what did landing on that specific thesis mean to you personally as a writer? This sort of because you're kind of gifting this sort of ideal, this optimism out to everyone who picks up this book. So, what did that mean to you personally to kind of put that message in this?
Yeah, well, the main mission statement of the book was always like, we've all at some point in our life, no matter who you are, you felt like an outsider, whether it's in your family, in your group of friends, like where you live. And whole book and the thesis of that ending was like, you don't need to sit around and wait for someone to accept you or to tell you what your place is in the world. You can do it, and the people who love you will show up and support you. And then, so, like, that whole thing was always leading to that dramatic hug between Clark and Connor at the
Yeah,
end. So that was always like the thesis statement around it was like, we've all felt like an outsider at times, it doesn't mean that you can't go and find your own way. You just have to be willing to take that step and to do something scary and to
yeah.
go out there and put yourself out there, which was him for a lot of us, it's maybe taking a new job or moving to a different city. For Connor, it was going into space and fighting the bad guys where people don't have a Superman, and that was his,
Yeah.
but like trying to carve his own path.
I explicitly like the moment where kind of Cal comes to the conclusion or comes to the realization of what Connor could be feeling. And
Yeah,
it's also like a examination that the people around you, it's not that they don't care or they can't see your journey. They've got their own journeys. Everybody's got
yeah,
the tunnel vision. Everybody's kind of going in their own direction. And people, whole people might fall through those cracks. And sometimes it's just as important as telling the people that matter to you, hey, listen, I'm going through something. Or hey, listen, I'm feeling a certain type of way. Because when that ends and the whole Superman family's there, I'm like, of course they're there. Like, of course they would be there. Of course they would, champion Superboy. Of course they would give him the pep talk that it's needed. In the very beginning of the book, it kind of seems like everybody is going on their own directions. But of course, if you call on the people who care about you, who love you, and vice versa, they will show up. They will be around, and they will kind of instill that sort of confidence that you're meant to be here. But I also absolutely love the twist you put, on the book because Connor says, I need to stop trying to be the kid I was yesterday. It's time to start acting like the man I'm going to be tomorrow. How did that line come together? Was that an aha moment for like Man of Tomorrow? Did you know that from the beginning that would be that it would be a transformative thing, or were you kind of writing and it kind of got there and you're like, that's kind of cool.
that line came early because that's when we were
Okay.
debating the title because there were several different project titles. And then I was just kind of thinking about like how I wanted his like big realization is like I keep worrying about my past and where I fit, but I need to think about like how I'm gonna better myself and what I'm gonna be in the future. And when we were trying to decide on titles, I was like, oh my God, like Man of Tomorrow. Like he will be eventually the way DC Legacy goes, like something will happen eventually he will be Superman, whether I write it or somebody else. And
Yeah.
this is to set up that like I will eventually have to take that title. Like whether it's thrust upon me, whether I decide to, I need to start thinking about who I'm going to be going forward.
Yeah.
And whether that's like a space adventuring version of Superman that's more like a Guardians of the Galaxy type thing,
Yeah.
like maybe leading a version of the Cosmoteers someday or something, like his own like positive version of it, or just being Earth's only Superman eventually. That was once I knew that was the core of his mentality when he realizes what he needs to do. The title was just like, obviously, let's make it. And then it's the juxtaposition. It's like, it's Superboy, Man of Tomorrow,
Right.
instead of Superman, which is just like a fun twist on it.
Yeah. I think oftentimes because life can be so frantic, it's hard to think that far into the future and try to plan your steps to become a better person. You're kind of just stuck frozen in today, and so the ideal that like everything that you're doing will be the culmination of the person that you end up becoming, I think is a really apt sort of message to put in something like that. Um, I think it's also super ironic, right? Because you're writing for DC during what feels like an incredible peak for the publisher right now, especially doing Superman Father of Tomorrow. On top of that, we're in the middle of a massive pop culture movement and moment with Summer of Supergirl, the Year of Superman, those
Hmm.
cinematic pushes happening. But as a child of the '90s, we're the only decade that didn't have a Superman film. And it could be
Yeah.
argued that that decade of Superman is one of the most tumultuous decades that's ever existed when you deal with his death and then he comes back, and eventually Red and Blue and all that kind of stuff. What is it navigating this sort of editorial synergy going on with the rising tide of Superman to carve out your own distinctive voice for the L family, both Superboy and Jor-El here, with that sort of background of not having the Christopher Reeve movie up front. I mean, obviously you would have seen it by now, been inspired by it, and again, the Fleischer cartoons and stuff. But I do think we come at a little bit of a deficit in our decade with not having a strong enough version of the character. I feel like you're kind of coming at a deficit, but you did a great job in your portrayals. So I just
Thank
kind
you.
of wanted
Yeah.
you to speak on that a little bit.
Yeah, really only the only thing we had would have been the Bruce Timm animated show was like
Yeah,
what came in later. So that obviously like the Bruce Timm Paul Dini stuff, it really affected me. Like whether it was Batman the animated series or that was like a huge inspiration for me. I absolutely love those shows. I go back and watch them. Anytime I got to write like a Justice League story, I'll go back and watch Justice League or Justice League Unlimited. Even the first
yeah,
couple times I wrote Superman, I went back and watched animated series episodes to like because I love that tone of it and how like challenging the stories were. But yeah,
yeah,
it's crazy because we just didn't have a Superman movie in that time. We had animated stuff and everything, but there wasn't like a movie. And I know they were like trying to get one off the ground. There's the famous like
yeah,
Kevin Smith story with the Thanagarian snare beast giant
yeah,
spider
yeah.
stuff and everything,
Yes.
which we eventually got,
Right, right,
which is
right.
crazy. But
No one's
yeah,
claiming steal. Also, no one's claiming steal.
yeah, that's so crazy. I guess I just like to not think about that one because I love John Henry Irons, and I'm like,
Yeah,
they did him. You couldn't even just say that like there was Superman and he died, and John
yeah,
Henry was inspired by him. Like
right.
that's a way cleaner opening of that movie. But I know that they were just like we got to make everything separate. Every movie's got to be its own separate thing. Um, but yeah, with working with DC, they've always been surprisingly really supportive about anything that I want to do, whether it's in continuity, out of continuity. They're just really good that if so it's, for example on Superboy because that was in continuity as opposed to Father of Tomorrow, which isn't. It's an Elseworlds. With
Hmm.
Superboy, they put me in touch with the person who'd written Connor last, which was
Okay.
Megan Fitzmartin. So we talked on the phone, and then I got on the phone also with Phil Kennedy Johnson, who was taking over, I believe, Action at that time.
Yeah.
Uh, and we talked about like where Connor was, what I was going to do, and then where Connor was going to end up. And that's how we included the scene with him getting the new jacket, so that it was like
Yeah.
a nice handshake off to Philip's new series. So they've always been really supportive. Like there's very few times they've ever been like, you can't do this, you can't do that. It's only if like, oh, you can't use this character because somebody else is going to do a big reveal with this one. It's always been very collaborative. It's never been like, we don't want you to do anything too weird.
Yeah.
Like I thought they were gonna be like Cyborg Superboy. No, he can't do that.
Right.
That's too weird. Or even half the stuff that we're doing in Father Tomorrow, because I've been saying in interviews like the first issue's lovely and it sets everything up, but Danny and I are about to make it real weird.
Yeah.
Starting with issue two, we're going to touch a lot of really crazy characters in corners of the DC universe you wouldn't expect. And at no time were they like, "You can't do that. That's too weird" or anything. That was just like, "This is what we're doing and why we're doing it." And they're like, "Awesome, write it and draw it, put it down on the page." So they've been really supportive, and I think that might be why they're having such a moment is because they're just letting people cook, like writers and artists doing what they think is exciting, like all the stuff in the Absolute line, all the stuff in
Yeah.
the Next Level thing. Like we're getting interesting interpretations of like Firestorm, some classic fun Lobo stuff. Absolute Batman's bringing people in who haven't been in comics for a while, and they're trying new stuff.
Yeah.
I just finally got to catch up and read the first issue of Absolute Green Arrow, and that was great. Same with
Yeah.
Absolute Martian Manhunter, like that's bonkers and feels like a fun Vertigo take on the
Yeah.
character. Yeah, they're really into doing big swings and crazy creator-driven stuff. I think people are responding to that.
I think the height of superhero media kind of got us in this weird synergy circle where the success of, let's say, films and television meant that they thought that the comics should be aping off of that instead of vice versa, the comics laying the groundwork for other
Mhm.
adaptations. And I'm glad that we're swinging for the fences with a lot of this stuff because I think that as like DC for all of the great pieces of media that they have, I feel like they barely scratched the surface with their treasure trove of characters.
Oh,
And
totally.
all it takes is a landmark book, right? All it takes is a creative and a creative team to put out an awesome story for a character, for that character to go from, let's say, D-list to A-list. And I think that watching these creatives, again, play around in the box, like we got again Lobo back. We got Lobo back. I'm reading Fury of the Firestorm, and I'm like, this is amazing. Like I know Firestorm, he's my boy, but like this is cool. And just in a world where I think that a lot of this medium was kind of propelled by you following a certain character, we're following creators now. People are following creators off of the cliff. If push comes to shove, they trust them that inherently, and I think that DC trusts you with this whole House of L thing, with your, with the books that you've been able to write in here. But given how much you spent in the trenches with this sort of mythology, what do you think is the biggest thing the general public or even the casual comic reader gets completely wrong about Superman as a character or Superman as the Superman family as a whole?
I think, I mean, from a lot of what I've seen online, like everybody loves to just argue about how strong they are or how powerful they are and stuff. But really, like that power and that strength is a shield that they use for doing good and for being good people, and for like instilling hope in people. Because like if you think about what touches people the most about Superman, it's none of the panels of him hitting somebody. It's always the panels of him being compassionate, like the classic All-Star Superman thing when he stops that girl on
Yeah,
the edge of the building. Like that shows the true power of Superman. Like he's there to take he's more likely to take a punch for someone else than to throw a punch.
yeah,
And that's how I've always loved and appreciated like Superman. And I played with that in Superboy with the very like Dragon Ball sort of thing of like, you hear that sound? And they're like, what? He's like, that's the sound of the entire village having been
yeah,
evacuated, which means now I get to throw down. Like,
yeah.
it's that putting other people first sort of thing that I think has always been the strength of it. And I get the like little kid power fantasy thing of like loving to see the explosions and the punches. Sorry, I got distracted. My cat is like crawling into my box of comps to take a nap. So I was like, he's not eating them, are they? No, he's just moving the paper around. But it's that ability to stand up for other people and take the hits and stuff because it's what's right and to instill hope in people. I always feel like people focus too much on the strength or the power levels. I'll quote Dragon Ball Abridged to show how much more of a joke I
Yeah.
am. But with power levels, nobody cares.
Yes,
anymore.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
No, it's so interesting that you put it that way because I don't think I've ever conceptualized it like that, as that being the core difference between, let's say, a Goku and a Superman, who are constantly being compared to one another,
Hmm.
right? Even the new Superman movie gives him the "we're sent you to conquer" and something happened in the middle, and now
Yeah.
you're Earth savior kind of thing. But when you do think of Goku, you do think of like the fights with Cell. You do think of the Saiyan saga, turning to Super Saiyan for the very first time. Whereas when you think of Superman, it's the saving of the squirrel moment. Like
Yeah.
that's the stuff that saving letting an old lady cross the street, saving the cat out of the tree. It's those kind of moments. And similar, you were able to provide those action beats in Superboy, but I do think that, like you said, the moments that resonate the most with readers
Hmm.
are the ones that are a little bit more heartfelt. I know that it took me a while. I did not grow up a Superman fan.
Yeah.
I was aware and I respected the man. I did not have the same hatred that a lot of people in my generation did. But I couldn't get a beat on him, and it wasn't until around the time of the Snyderverse came out that I started to do like some really, really deep dives because something just felt off about that character. And I'm not downplaying him in the same way. It
Hmm.
was just for my personal taste. It just felt like something was a bit off. And in doing my research and reading some of the great runs and hearing some of the creators behind it, this idea of him trying to be the best human, like he loves and he's so grateful for humanity taking him in that he just wants to do the best for them every day. The idea that he can't walk his dog without listening to a fire truck, 10
Oh yeah.
blocks away, or, a tsunami in a far country, that every bit of his life is dedicated to helping out. And then the other side of it, how we humans are very predisposed to anger and being violent, and that he may have seen that and have been, affected by that, but he can't. He can't have a bad day. He can't have a temper. He can't be petty because if he does any of that stuff, the world's going to explode. So seeing that sort of resilience, seeing that sort of restraint, I feel like kind of transformed how that character felt to me. And I think we're getting a lot more media now that is, especially now when our base instincts are to be a little bit, and I think you kind of covered this and we'll get into this in a bit with New Space Age, like how how we almost are devolving a little bit in our pursuit of being a more civilized, species. So I thought that that was super interesting. And I also heard it kind of floating around that you're doing a lot of world building in Father of Tomorrow, maybe even possibly creating a Gotham by Gaslight-esque universe that people could end up playing in after the fact. Is that something that's honestly happening? Can you see a little bit of what that, if they allowed you to come back to this and kind of plan out that future, is that a world you would like to play in, kind of leaving the door open for a broader sandbox?
Oh, totally. Yeah. We basically set it up where like this is now just an Earth that's way ahead technology wise. So like the Batman and Robin in it are way more technologically advanced. A lot of the cities are, the criminals are like more high-tech versions. So we could totally drop in and do minis or one shots or whatever OGNs with like these different versions of the characters, or even just sequels and stuff. Like we really created like a story engine that could do that.
That's super cool. Yeah, just having that, just creaked open just a little bit so that anybody who looks past and
Yeah.
is interested can kind of jump on that. I'm gonna stop monopolizing the conversation. Just wanted to get off my Superman stuff real quick, but Frank, who does was part of our international review team here at Comic Book Click, putting out reviews each and every day. He's the one who tapped my shoulder and told me about New Space Age. He was super excited for it, and I'm really, really down to talk to you about it. But I got to give the floor to Frank real quick. Frank, New Space Age.
First, I do have to I have to confess, I did not vote for Superboy in the round robin. I wanted to see Kyle Rayner get a book.
Listen, I love Kyle Rayner too. So the fact that I had to go up against any Green Lantern stuff bummed me out. So I've
Just
got a Kyle Rayner
close
like
your
a
eyes and sort of.
yeah.
Well, see, I'm apparently a little bit older than you. I'm a child of the '80s,
Hmm.
so we had Superman movies, but we had Superman 3 and 4.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Richard Pryor,
So
man. I always just look at that movie and I'm like, this Richard Pryor just hanging out. He's just a character in this universe now. Great.
so I was basically a teenager when Connor came out,
Hmm.
and so it was, so it was relatable.
Oh,
and
totally.
I love him. He's one of my favorite characters. Him and Tim Drake. I till the day I die, it's like please, please, please give me something good with them again.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I
Um,
love Tim
yeah,
Drake.
and so I'm like, oh my God, what do I do here? Connor has so much good stuff. Kyle's been kind of crapped on since Hal came back. I gotta vote for Kyle. Come on,
I
give me
feel you.
something good.
I feel you.
Had to confess.
No, that makes
Well, I
sense.
Um,
appreciate the honesty. So
There you go.
so the first thing with New Space Age that just really, really struck me. I mean, I'll be honest, I really hadn't even heard about it. I just kind of picked it up on a whim, and that's how you get the best stuff sometimes.
absolutely.
And I'm like, science fiction looks kind of like, 80s pulp sci-fi, 70s, 80s pulp sci-fi style. Let's check it out. The magic thing, the mixture of the magic and the sci-fi technology. I mean, it's not new, but you don't see a lot of it.
Mhm.
In the manga space, you've kind of got Full Metal Alchemist in a way. You got your magic and your steampunk tech, and then I'm a gamer. Shadowrun, famous for mixing magic and tech. So I
Yeah.
mean, I guess my question is, where did you pull that idea from?
Yeah, so a lot of it came from the fact that, there'd been a ton of stuff where people were declassifying UFO, UAP stuff. And then also there was a recent episode of when they brought back Unsolved Mysteries, there was one about my hometown with the giant
Ah,
UFO sighting over Lake Michigan, like between like Holland, Grand Haven, Muskegon. I'm from Grand Haven originally. And I remembered when I was a kid, people talking about that. So it's always kind of captured my imagination. And I'm a big fan of pulp stories. And when I was looking at it and looking at all the footage of them moving, and it was like it defies physics or and everything. Like it doesn't make any sense. And I was thinking, like, well, what if it wasn't science then? What if they don't move by science? We don't see any propulsion in any of this footage that's declassified. They just move. I was like, what if it was magic? And that's where it started to like churn in my brain, and I combined it with the idea that I'd had lingering of like a disgraced astronaut whose brother's abducted by aliens. I was like, this is the perfect marriage mode. Like this is the missing heat that I needed for it. And I wanted it to feel like you mentioned, like an 80s sci-fi thing, like a movie that had fallen behind the shelf at Blockbuster that everybody forgot about. I was just like, what the hell is this? Like, why didn't anybody tell me about this one? Because I loved movies like The Explorers and Flight of the Navigator and stuff growing up. So I wanted to do something that was kind of like a little bit more of an adult version of that. And essentially like also like back to my DC love, I was essentially the way I pitched it to my friends, I was like, it's like, what if Hal Jordan and Zatanna built a ship together? Like, and
oh, that'd be
that's
cool.
how it worked. So that's really where the impetus of it came, of like introducing that sort of like that guilt of like a brother who couldn't be there for somebody while they were going through a hard time, or that they were just estranged. Like I took some real life inspiration from that and injected it into the story. And from there, then I just let it kind of breathe. I let it be a little bit more natural than a lot of my other stories where I didn't plot it as super tightly because I wanted a lot more character interactions to happen, especially while they were
Yeah,
building stuff. So I didn't want it to have the like like story structure of a lot of like usual things that would come out then. I just wanted to have a lot of moments with these characters, and like also just to explore the idea that like we don't people don't get excited about like science or space exploration anymore. Like
yeah,
of that kind of romantic big sci-fi feeling of like going out into the stars and traversing and finding new stuff. I wanted there to be a hopeful science fiction thing instead of just dystopian the world ends stuff of like what happens when people who are really dedicated and hopeful like build something to try to better the future. So that's a very complicated answer, but I feel like it's a complicated.
no, 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah, was completely floored by the magic reveal. Did not think that that was going to be something in this. But as you talked a lot about the character moments, in my early comic book reading, I mostly stuck to characters that I knew. I stuck to the big two. I branched out with some of the images and stuff. But I would say like the last 5 years or so, I've been really diving deep into creator-owned works.
Yeah.
And there's just a level of vulnerability and transparency in creator-owned work because you're selling your own idea, and it's something that usually comes from your head and your heart. Am I wrong to think that this book stems from a personal place for you? Because I feel like there's
Oh, totally.
a
Yeah.
bit of that there.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It comes from like a personal place of like growing up and having a lot of estrangement or like friction with family. And so a
Hmm.
lot of that, like it's always been my whole thing of like, I'm an open book when it comes to that stuff. And if it helps somebody else get through something like difficult or deal with something in their life, then I'm glad to talk about it and to put it as a part of a story. So like there's that famous quote of like writing is just like cutting yourself and letting yourself bleed on the typewriter or the page or whatever. Like that's
Yeah.
what I like. That's why I come to stories because I love to have those moments where I read something and I connect with it and feel like it applies to something in my life or it's a feeling that I know that I've felt before. So that totally happens and I try to do that in my big two work and stuff as well, but in creator owned stuff it just tends to naturally come out a bit more.
Yeah. I feel like there's this sort of heavy and almost beautifully tragic truth running through that book, which is this idea that people going through genuinely rough or complicated times lean harder into escapism, into the
Mhm.
sci-fi, the dreams and stuff, because they want to believe that something better is out there. Why was that a psychological aspect of fandom and escapism, something you wanted to kind of anchor the story in? Is that something that you personally feel?
Oh, totally. I had a like we won't get into it, but like there's a lot of not nice stuff that happened when I was a kid and like comics, movies and TV and stuff like those stories really helped me get through it and relate to the world more. And that's one of the reasons why I create stuff and put stuff out because I want to be able to give people not that kind of blind escapism, but that escapism that tells you that like you're not alone and that
Yeah.
other people go through horrible things. So that's one of the main reasons of why I write at all. And if I can give somebody something like that to help them relate and connect to other people, whether it's other people who've read it or the people who made it, that's really important to me. So that's why I did it. That's why I do it to this day.
I think that's what makes this medium very unique. Because I think that it's a personal hobby, right? You take in a
Mhm.
comic book one issue at a time by yourself, but the idea that creatives can distill hope, optimism, even when they weren't given it at some point, I think is such a beautiful part of this medium and one that I think most people don't really understand. I think they look towards the aspirational heroes, but sometimes forget about the regular Smo that is, creating the
Totally.
optimism that stands behind that sort of hero. And like I said, I think it takes a level of vulnerability and a level of transparency. Am I the sum of my experiences, good or bad? And what does that mean for my future? Am I similar to the Connor of it all? Do I have a death sentence now, right? Just because I had a bad sort of upbringing or something like that, or can I always kind of strive for a better tomorrow? And I think that that's a beautiful sentiment and something that's genuinely needed, especially where everyone's always talking about things having too heavy a messaging. But I think that the idea of redemption, the idea that you're not kind of you don't have to sink your heels in to a bad past or a bad sort of personification of yourself. That there's always more to do. I think that that's a good nugget to give to the fandom, and I'm thankful that New Space Age was able to tackle something like that, especially with also, I mean, it's very on the sleeves, the kind of upbringing that he had. I think it kind of trickles in, and the more the
Oh
story
yeah.
goes, the more kind of more explicit the things that he's gone through are, and but then there is like this huge amount of hope, this huge amount of optimism, and I remember growing up in space being the thing, and then me getting to a certain age and being like, "What's going on?" Like I haven't heard any big announcements about. Are we still doing
We
space?
still going up there or
Yeah, yeah. Is that still a thing? Are we still doing space? And I just think that there's a little bit of a lack of that creativity, a little bit of a lack of that not creativity, sorry, curiousness,
Mhm.
curiosity. I think that we're missing in the pursuit of, I'm assuming, profits. That's usually what lack of ingenuity and all that other kind of stuff in one direction are. But yeah, I'm gonna hand it back over to Frank. Go ahead, Frank.
Um, where do I want to go? So, taking what you said, I mean, you said that you basically for New Space Age you let the characters kind of lead.
Mhm.
I mean that very much showed. I mean, at first, I'll freely admit, at first I was like, okay, it's a really cool setup, and then the second issue was, that was all character stuff while they're building the ship, while they're working on everything, and I'm like, hmm, I thought this was going to be more bonkers,
Yeah,
but then I thought about it, and I'm like, yeah, but think how much I just learned about these characters.
Yeah. And then
And
it
then,
gets
you know, and,
bonkers.
and then it got bonkers.
And then it gets bonkers.
Yeah. So no, it's very different than your go to point A, point B, point C. We got to hit this, we got to hit this, we got to hit this guy in the face.
Yeah.
Although there's a little bit of that too, but yeah,
Of course, yeah.
I
You gotta
just
have that.
I liked it.
Thanks,
It's
man.
I don't know that there's a question there. I just had to
Yeah.
say on
Well, I
the
will
whole, I
say,
really
based on
enjoyed it.
that, like one of the reasons I did that was that so when spoiler alert for everybody who hasn't read it yet, when he does eventually go out into space and encounters other stuff, you know Mark inside and out, so that
Hmm.
it feels because I knew that when we did that, it was going to be a lot of nonverbal communication with him between the aliens. So I wanted you to know him inside and out so you could tell probably what Mark was thinking or feeling while he was experiencing that and seeing all of that. So that was why it was so important to make sure that we had a lot of moments of them together and building the ship and their interactions between Mark and Stacy and Bobby of like how they work together as a team, clashed with one another. So yeah, it was really interesting and it was a unique sort of exercise in me to be like, don't feel so concerned uh about plotting and worry more about the interaction so that when you get to these bigger moments, people feel like they know the people.
Yeah. I
And even even Bobby, sorry, even
no, you're
Bobby's
good.
turned heel, turned face again to use
Yeah,
wrestling
yeah,
terms,
yeah,
and
yeah.
for okay, so it kind of drives me crazy that Mad Cave, I know a lot of them don't do it much anymore, but Mad Cave doesn't do recap pages. I'm
Oh yeah.
terrible with names.
Oh,
So
I
like
gotcha.
Ah.
I would
Yeah.
constantly forget Bobby's name. And then the evil general, I could never remember his name. He was just General Jerkface in my reviews.
Fair.
That is
Fair.
what he's known behind his comrade's back as
There
General
you go. Yeah,
Jerkface.
yeah, that's 100%.
But I mean, even Bobby, turning heel, turning face again. It's still, we got enough time with him, enough sense of his character that it made sense. It wasn't like, oh yeah, the plot needed that. It was no, Bobby needed that.
Yes. Bobby
From
was worried
the,
about employment
yeah, from the
over
second he lost
Yes.
his
over
job, he never
over
stopped talking about
yeah.
you son of a you cost me
Mhm.
this job. I I feel like when when I was reading your work, sometimes I just would get hooked on an idea, whether it was a quote or something. And not to give away too many spoilers, but this book flirts around with a pretty philosophical dilemma that I brought up earlier, the idea that humanity may not be ready or
Yeah.
deserving of a highly evolved egalitarian society because we haven't conquered our primitive flaws like greed, division, and war. What made you want to tackle that societal mirror? Because I feel like I've had this thing in the back of my mind. I'm not super religious, but I am spiritual. And I feel
Mhm.
like the sort of mandate of religion kind of squashed the curiosity of what all this is a little bit because it answered all of our questions. And so I do think that there are things like the pure energy of humans together when they are focused on something. I think that the same sort of overwhelming energy you feel like at a church revival, you feel at a concert, you feel at a sports game. There's something real and tangible there, but we've never
Yeah.
explored it because it's answered away in the many religious texts that exist. It does feel like at some point we just stopped looking into what we can do, what our capacity is, and kind of started being focused to more, I again, profit is all I can say, right? All of it comes back
Mhm.
to this idea of money. How did you kind of circle that idea with this book?
Yeah, that was a big driving thing with it, that I knew that when I was like laying the groundwork of how eventually they were going to build a ship and then go into space and what answers he was going to find, I knew that I didn't want it to have a clean cut Hollywood ending or
Yeah,
anything. I wanted it to feel that like you don't just one day decide you're going to solve all your problems and all your problems are solved. Like that's not how the world works. I wanted that realistic element in this science fiction story, but you can work towards it and build hope that eventually you will. And part of that was just thinking about if these cultures are inviting people to build ships and join them, if they have this technology, all these cultures, they inherently would only be able to give it to people that they completely trust with it, like
yeah,
in the invitation. So the fact that somebody finally figures it out, it goes up there, and like, not huge spoilers, we've mentioned a little bit, but that they're like you guys aren't ready. Like that's like
They have
you
the "Do
figured it
not
out.
serve" sign on
Yeah, just like
on the
you
wall.
figured it out. The rest of them are not ready. And we clearly see that with like how the technology gets misused and mishandled
Hmm.
later. And we do see some people like learn from this and build better understanding. But it's just like, yeah, like until you guys figure out to put, hope and progress above fighting amongst each other and mine, and who can be better. Like we can give you the tools, but you're not invited
Yeah,
until you fully figure that out. Like that was always going to be a huge part of the story, and then also part of the ending, which I don't want to spoil, of like
right, right.
of the realization Mark comes to and what gets revealed to him and how far he gets with trying to save his brother. So yeah, that was always a part of it, something I wanted to talk about. And part of that whole like humanity corrupting technology for the wrong reasons thing is in Father of Tomorrow. Like
Yeah,
in the Elseworlds book, it's a big part of it with Jor-El's character.
yeah. Is that something you personally feel about society right now, about humanity right now? Do you think we're kind of blocking ourselves from our blessings in
Oh,
regards to where we can go?
absolutely, yeah. And I don't think there's any one culprit. I just think that it just always boggles me all the time of just how greedy people will be in any sort of weird situation or to do something that will benefit them or harm others. And that to me is why these sorts of stories are so important to teach people of like, we're all here together. Like we
Hmm.
all have wants and needs and stuff. Like there's no reason to be this aggressive towards each other, like whether it's war, whether it's just like shoving somebody for no reason, any
Yeah,
level of it, like the real paradise is not having more than everyone else. It's making sure everyone's taken care of and stuff. So that's always been a very important thing to me. I don't care what race, religion, sex, identity you have, like you deserve to be treated with respect
yeah,
and with kindness. And the fact that people will just sell other people out at the drop of a hat for quick profit or whatever else, or just to feel more powerful than somebody else has always bothered me. So
right.
that's why I have these characters standing up for stuff like that, or like whether it's Mark against the military industrial system, or it's Superman against and another version of Superman against a world where he keeps giving them an olive branch and they keep setting it on fire every
Yeah.
single time he does it.
I've heard somebody say that at a certain point in wealth, they should just give you an award that you won capitalism. Like you can stop making money. You've won the
Yeah,
game.
like great, you
Like,
were a billionaire for a day. Here's your plaque. Now
yeah.
that goes back into the rest
Right.
of society. Yeah,
Because what is the end point, right? What is the end
nothing.
goal? If to have more means to take more, what is your end goal in all this? And um, it's not a shock that a lot of comic creators feel this sort of way about the way the world is moving because the comic book creation process is so collaborative. You're not
Yeah,
an island, right? You have to be able to communicate and be able to concede and be able to compromise. And nothing, every great, beautiful piece of the comic book medium has had so many hands touch it and work on it and twist it and craft it that you can't kind of have a singular sort of idea around this. And I think that I think more people should be part of those collaborative efforts to really realize how far we can go together. We can go much further. Like Mark, right? We could always go much further together than by ourselves. And I just felt when I got hung up on that line of just like the door being closed on
hmm
humanity, I was like, that's so interesting because I believe you we talk all the time about, right, when we were growing up and we were looking at the world of tomorrow, like we were supposed to be way more advanced with all that kind of stuff, but there's no money in that. There's no money in the advancement of medicine or the advancement of social programs or anything like that. That people in charge don't see any value in it, and so we've become stagnant and we're stuck here. And maybe that doesn't get us permission to go elsewhere, which is really interesting, sort of like an intergalactic bouncer kind of way. But switching gears to this whole indie space, Mad Cave has been on an absolute tear lately, rapidly growing their footprint. What's your experience been like working with them, and what do you think makes their creative ecosystem so attractive for writers right now? Because they're pulling some amazing creative talents and putting out some amazing books at the moment.
Yeah, they were been fantastic to work with, and they're very supportive of the direction that I wanted to take the book in, and like the unique story and pacing that we wanted to do, the look of it, the things we wanted to explore. Like at no point were they ever like, we don't think you should do this, or they didn't try to tell us how to do our own create our own book. They were just very supportive in me and Mike Becker doing this story together and telling our version of it. And they did link us together. I hadn't met Mike before. Like they showed me
Oh,
Mike's
okay.
art
Whoa.
style. And as somebody who's a huge fan of, like I said, the Bruce Timm animated stuff, like he has a lot of inspiration from there,
Yeah.
as well as like a lot of Franco-Belgian. Like I've mentioned, like there's a lot of kind of like Mobius inspiration in his stuff.
Mhm.
So I just felt like that was a great fit for it. But yeah, they were super supportive the entire time, and I think it's just that they're willing to just take a risk on creators and them doing unique takes on things, blends on genres, as well as telling personal stories.
It's interesting also because, they're taking a risk, or, they're taking a gamble. That's what's made them successful. But the people that they are putting on are also taking their own gamble, right? It's everyone
Mhm.
sort of having this collaborative hope towards this thing succeeding, which I also think helps propel a lot of this stuff. Having other people believe in your work and say, "Hell yeah, that's a great idea. Let's go ahead. Let's do it." Um, I think that I kind of think that's why a lot of people are leaning towards like AI bots, because they're always like, "Yeah, bro, like that was a great idea." Like, yeah, you should set your house on
The
fire if
digital
that's
pat
what you
on the
want.
back, the
Yeah,
digital
yeah,
attaboys.
100%. I think in the world that's getting online is getting increasingly pessimistic. People are in search for that connection and in search of people who can see their vision and kind of get that stuff out there. So I'm glad Mad Cape exists as a place where people can get these ideas out there that are not going to be fit. They're not going to fit some of the other publishers, and that's nothing against them. There's different strokes for different folks in that kind of regard. But looking at your bibliography, there's a fascinating kind of recurring archetype, the unwilling or thrust into action kind of hero. Like
Hmm.
Jor-El, it doesn't start to save the world, right? He's kind of like saving himself. He ends up somewhere. Roger in the Schlub, Connor in Man of Tomorrow, Dracula in Operation Iron Coffin, which we'll talk about a little bit, and then Mike Becker, right? What draws you consistently to characters who don't necessarily sign up for the job, but they answer that call of action?
Yeah, I think it also just kind of stems back from being a kid who watched, I didn't grow up in the 80s. I was born in 86, but I watched, obviously, like you watch all the stuff from the decade previously because it
Yeah,
heavily bleeds into stuff. And that reluctant hero thing was always such a big part of the stories of the 80s and the 90s. I mean, like the biggest reluctant hero story ever, Star Wars, is,
yeah,
Luke of it, like wants to travel, wants to do all these things. When he's first presented with it by Obi-Wan, was like, I can't just leave. And
right.
then, murdered aunt and uncle has to take off, like doesn't have a choice. Like that's always kind of been like a big part of one of the versions of a hero's journey is
Yeah,
that sort of thing. And I feel like a lot of times when change starts to happen or something like that happens, I know that my initial fear is to be kind of scared of it and to be reluctant and stuff to do stuff when things change that way. And then we all go through that sort of thing. So I think it's always a universal sort of thing that hits us and pushes us. Now, not all characters do that. So like
right.
for instance, another one of my favorite characters, Hal Jordan. My favorite interpretation of Hal Jordan is when he gets the ring, he's like, "Goddamn hell yeah!" Like
Yeah, let's do this.
this is what I've been waiting for. It's that absolutely like I 100% will do this. So it all just depends on the character. But a lot of the characters I've written lately have been the ones who've been like, I want things to change, but I'm scared to
Yeah,
to to go with things to change them, or I'm reluctant to do it. And like you said earlier with like redemption stuff, like that's all super baked into Operation Iron Coffin, which is like one of the other creator-owned books I have coming out soon, where it's about, for those of you who don't know, it's about the British dropping Dracula like a bomb on the Nazis in World War II on a train. So metal as hell, drawn by Tyrell
gnarly.
Cannon, who I
That's the
did the
word that came
Schlub
into my
with.
head, was like gnarly. Like that
Yeah,
that's the description
that
that I
was a
have for
pitch.
it.
I called Tyrell and I was like, "Here's the pitch pages. Bomber, World War II, drops a bomb. We zoom in. It's not a bomb. It's a metal coffin. Coffin goes into the back of a train. on the train, Dracula comes out, starts killing Nazis, and he was like, "All right, that is dope." He's like, "But what's the story?" And I was like,
Right.
"Well, the story is about him making a Faustian bargain to come back from the dead,
Yeah.
and to redemptively try to take out all the other vampires that exist in the world." So I don't want to spoil what the Faustian bargain is or why he comes back, but the
Yeah.
story really juxtaposes like what does it mean when a classic monster, one of the most classic monsters, Dracula, meets a real life monster, which had been the Nazis in World War II, and how do those clash together, and how does somebody who spent unknowable amounts of time being an absolute terror to the planet make up for what they did when they start to feel those feelings again of having a conscience, and having regret for what they've done. So a lot of the story will show his journey from his resurrection up to World War II. So there's more
Hmm.
than just the World War II stuff. We're going to see a lot of flashbacks of that because he gets resurrected about, I think, just a couple years after the end of the novel,
Okay.
which I love the novel and I've read it a million times, and it's
Hmm.
heavily inspired by that. I don't want to come out and say that this is the canon sequel to the book,
Right.
but I'm not going to not say that,
Right. Right. If
just for
people
the fun
wanted
of
to
it.
continue, if people wanted
Yeah,
to
the
continue that
threads are
adventure,
there. If you want to
yeah.
say this is where it ends up, I'm sure Stoker would be like, Bram Stoker would be like, that's rad as hell.
Right.
If you can read it. But for in terms of tone, I would say it's very much inspired by by Vampire Hunter D, because Tyrell and I both love Vampire Hunter D. I've heard some people compare it to Helsing. I actually haven't read or watched Helsing before.
Yeah.
There's the Dracula World War II aspect, but tonally way different. I'd say it's more closer to like a Castlevania Metal Gear sort
I
of
can
thing,
dig
like,
that. Yeah.
especially with him like fighting his way through the train and fighting like supernatural and occult
Oh
like
yeah,
Nazi
very
villains.
Metal Gear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very Metal Gear. Like essentially him going against like a Cobra unit or Foxhound sort of thing. Like very heavily inspired by that. And I love me some philosophizing and Metal Gear and
Yeah.
stuff. So we'll get plenty of that in
Oh,
this
that's awesome.
series. But yeah, this was we're doing it through IDW Dark, and
Yeah.
they were graciously like let us come in and do this crazy create our own book in their horror line and let us really push like the levels of violence
Yes.
in this book. It is, as much as it is a very philosophical and emotional story about a monster trying to be redemptive with no hope in sight, it is also just balls to the wall action violence because they asked us, they're like, so what age range you think this is gonna, and we cut them off like R, hard R.
Yes,
This
please.
is this is
Yeah.
there's going to be a lot of blood in this. Tyrell told me his flatter for color for the colors initially quit because of how much blood there is in
Oh
the
my.
book. And so he had to get another one, which I like. I get it. I understand. There's a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the colors and the artwork and stuff in it are fantastic. I
Gorgeous.
can't wait for
Yeah.
people to read it. It comes out July 8th.
We got an advanced copy, and you
Mhm.
have your idea of what to expect from something like this, and it rides so much on the rule of cool in a very awesome way of like, I don't really care. This is just cool. I'm on this ride, and then it absolutely shocks you with where it goes gore wise, in my opinion. I thought I knew how far you can go, and I was quite interested and intrigued by the places you were able to take this. Am I wrong to think as a 90s kid there's an eye drop of Spawn in this?
Oh yeah, it's totally,
Yeah.
yeah. There's
Okay.
totally like this is Dracula meets Spawn. Like somebody said this is like Spawn and Indiana Jones mixed together to me.
Oh,
Ah,
there you
that's
go.
really cool.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
really,
if
really
like
cool.
Spawn was throwing Nazis out the train, was like no ticket like that and
Yeah.
stuff at him. Like
Yeah.
that's a bit what it feels like. Yeah, totally. You can't see it, but I have like one of the big Kickstarter like Spawn figures up on the top of my
Awesome.
bookshelf. Like grew up
Oh,
loving
nice.
Spawn.
Yeah.
My mom, God rest her soul, she would go through these kind of like Bible thumping phases sometimes, and
Hmm.
then discovered what Spawn was about,
Oh
and
no.
then threw all my Spawn stuff out,
Yeah.
like all my issues, like I think even the soundtrack to the movie, like I had
Oh
that on the tape, and she
no.
threw that out.
Yeah,
She was
yeah.
like, it's about devil worship, and I was like, he fights the devil in it, so
And it's just a metal
Actually,
soundtrack, Mom.
yeah, it's
yeah.
just badass, is all it is. But
And then
yeah,
she
I've
points to
just
John Leguizamo and she's like, "What's going on there?"
yeah, I was like, first of all, he's a comedic godsend, so
Yeah,
don't come after my boy John, okay?
yeah. Luigi,
Um,
come on, bro.
yeah, leave him alone. I was like, his performance of Romeo and Juliet, that's my favorite performance of that movie. I don't care about DiCaprio. I don't care
Yeah,
about Claire Danes. I'm there for John Leguizamo in that movie.
100%. I know you're tackling Power Rangers
Yeah.
Unlimited. Your love for Power Rangers is no secret, and now you're co-writing this with Joey Esposito. Have you been a diehard fan standing by the franchise this entire time, or did this jump into the book feel more like visiting a beloved childhood friend after years apart?
I was there day one when Day of the Dumpster, the first episode premiered, and I have been hooked ever since. So I also grew up a huge fan of Godzilla movies and stuff as a
Okay,
kid.
yeah.
So like I was like, I'm sorry, there's a show where every episode there's a Godzilla giant robot fight at the
Yeah.
end. I was just like, just insert the take my money like fry meme. Just like I was so into it and so enamored by it. So I've loved it forever. I've checked in on the franchise the whole time. We didn't always have TV, so sometimes I would miss whole seasons of it, but I would check in with it and stuff all the time. And so originally Boom brought me in to do a different Power Rangers project, and I
Okay.
wrote like a whole thing with that where it was going to be like an alternate universe take on it, kind of like an Elseworlds story version of a character. And then that they decided not to do that and instead asked Joey and I, they called us separately and were like, hey, we're relaunching the line. We want one of the titles to be called Power Rangers Unlimited. All we know is we want it to be similar to Justice League Unlimited. What would you do with that? And I don't know exactly what Joey said, but I was like, that is literally all I've wanted to do with the franchise since I was a kid. What I
Yeah.
imagine when I listen to the theme song in my headphones, what is happening in my head of these like team ups and stuff. Because I don't know how big of Power Rangers fans you guys are, but are you familiar with the special Forever Red like
Yes.
that they did?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Hmm.
our mission statement was like, what if Forever Red were a book? Like, what
Oh,
if
that's
every
awesome.
issue was different combinations of Rangers from different teams? So
We're
Power
putting
Rangers
together a
Unlimited.
team. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Every issue. And that's what it is. Like we essentially like let's take a Doctor Who approach where we just time travel is wibbly wobbly, timey wimey.
Yeah.
Every issue will be a different genre. So like issue one is a big martial arts, like the raid style battle inside an enclosed
Mm.
space with our adult trainee who's like 40, who's the leader of the team from the OGs, the original Yellow Ranger.
Way,
This is a
way to
40
continue
year
that
old.
legacy, by the way, right? The
Oh
passing
yeah,
of
totally. Yeah.
that's a huge thing that went on in the lore. But yeah, continuing that,
Yeah.
that's pretty
It
cool.
was, and that was a big part of it. Like we wanted her to be the leader because we felt like she was always kind of the heart of the team and always right there in terms of like intelligence with Billy and fighting ability with Jason. And we wanted to give her moment to shine. I thought she'd be a great leader and commander for the team. So she selects Rangers through time and space through this new unlimited organization to go on these missions. Like issue two is a straight up horror slasher
Oh
which
wow,
which has already been revealed through solicits that the villain in that is the White Psycho Ranger. So like
I
they're
love the
letting
Psycho
us also
Rangers.
just invent
I love
stuff.
the
Yeah,
Psycho Rangers. Yeah,
there better be an action figure. That's all I'm saying.
yeah,
So
man.
and then issue three, the solicit's been revealed where it's a heist issue where they go to an arms dealer to steal Serpentera, which
Oh
is like
wow.
the big.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
like every issue, so that's like a heist one. We got like a Mad Max one coming up, like a Western shootout style one. So while all those are going on, there's a really I don't want to spoil it. You'll
Right,
read it
right.
when it comes out. There's an emotional B plot again, similar to like a Doctor Who season where every episode is a standalone like freak of the week fun genre thing, and then the B story is what leads up to the finale. So
Yeah.
Joey and I have been running it like a TV show where we sat down, plotted out all 12 issues of the first year, and we're like, this is who's going to show up. This is the A plot, the B plot, all the cool stuff we want to see. And we planned out a year two and then accidentally planned out a year three on the phone of like
Yeah.
seeding stuff of stuff that we said. So if people go out and support this book, Joey and I will write it till the end of time.
That's
And
amazing.
Alessio Zano and Federico Ceresa's artwork on it has been
Amazing.
stunning. So we
Really, really
couldn't be
good.
luckier that they're doing it. And they're trading off every other issue. So
Yeah.
like Alessio will do issue one, Federico will do issue two, and they both have their own style, but they look like they're kind of in the same camp. And I think they
Yeah.
work in the same studio. So it's just like a synchronicity sort of thing, and the fact that they each get to do different genres every issue. They've been so collaborative and so fun, and every time we send them a script, they're like, "I can't believe we get to draw this and like to
Yeah,
introduce this new thing." So
yeah.
we're lifelong fans coming in. Essentially, like mission statement was take the toy box, dump it out. Like you're
Yeah.
at somebody's house and you can have anything happen that you want, and it's Power Rangers without a budget, while
Oh,
like
that's
paying
amazing.
homage to the legacy. Now we did give ourselves rules.
Okay, okay.
So there's
Fair.
rules to the time travel, which were mostly imposed on ourselves, so we couldn't just use our favorites all the
Fair.
time.
Mhm.
Fair.
We're like, only certain people are allowed at certain times based on the wibbly wobbliness of the time travel. So it's almost like every mission Trini gets a like character select screen, like Marvel versus Capcom,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
is like, here's who's available right now based on like
Right.
the time travel stuff. So
That's cool.
insert gonna take you for a ride that song
Yeah,
or
yeah,
whatever,
yeah,
while she's like
100%.
picking the like cool and stuff, like
Yeah.
picking the choices of the fighters for the mission. But it allows us to take like combinations of characters who never met in any crossovers and see like either how they butt heads or like how they're instant BFFs. Maybe in some instances a little bit romantically inclined, a little bit of that
Ooh.
kind of drama.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it's a dream come true as like somebody who grew up again, like grew up with a franchise, like I grew up with Connor.
Yeah.
And I'm also a huge fan of Super Sentai, like the Japanese stuff. So I
Yeah.
love that
Yeah.
as well.
I had to go and get the Super Sentai DVDs, and just seeing like the context in which that show was made and what we turned it into is very funny.
Oh
Like,
yeah, so just like Zoo Ranger of like
yeah,
how different that is. Where like Rita Bandora's like trying to kill them because they killed her baby like back in
yeah.
the
She like
day.
eats kids or something. She's like a witch that eats kids.
Yeah, it's nuts. Yeah, I really love if you have you ever seen they never adapted it here, but did you ever see Jetman, the like
I don't
the
think I've seen
bird themed
Jetman.
one? That
Uh-uh.
one is awesome. It has some of the weirdest villains. I won't spoil it, but there's an episode there's like a locked room murder mystery on a bus
Okay.
episode that is one of my favorite just Power Rangers related things ever. Like to the point where I was tempted to just remake it in Unlimited, but I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I don't want to spoil Jetman by like stealing an episode of it
Yeah.
and redoing it. But Chojin Sentai Jetman is really, really fun. And they almost made that one instead of the dinosaur one. Instead of
Ah,
Jew
okay.
Ranger, it's the one right before it. And they nearly adapted that one. I think the dinosaur one was probably a better bet, especially like
Yeah.
because the 90s were so dinosaur coded with
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Jurassic
100%.
Park and everything. But Jetman's worth checking out because it's like there's some great melodrama in it. Really good character dynamic stuff. Like there's a really interesting love triangle. So I didn't
Mm.
make it, but I just like it. So I'm
No,
just promoting
100%.
Jetman now.
But like you, when you're watching it as a kid, you're not really questioning what's going on. You're kind of just going along
No.
for the ride. And then, like as an adult, seeing how they've had to stretch storylines, or like
Yeah.
when they're kids for a little bit because they, some contractual stuff is going on,
Yeah.
and they've got to move Rangers because they're fired a couple people for not for wanting more money
Oh,
and stuff.
totally.
Yeah. So
The
like
one
seeing that. Go ahead, brother.
Oh no, I was gonna say the one thing that like will boggle your mind if you're only familiar with American Power Rangers and you go look up what the Green Ranger's story was in Jew Ranger,
Yeah.
way way fucking cooler.
Yeah. Yeah.
Way awesome. Like
100%.
so in the American version, Tommy was always like he doesn't have his communicator on and he's at a karate tournament or something, so he's just not answering and showing up.
Yeah.
In Jew Ranger, all of them are like a Captain America type story where they were frozen and then brought
Yes.
back into modern day. The
Feudal
green one
Japan,
was,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they're all feudal
Um,
Japan people.
the green one was frozen wrong. So when he comes back, like at first he's crazy and that's why they fight him, but he's technically dead. So
Yeah.
he's while they're having their adventures, he's in the afterlife in
Hmm.
purgatory. And the green candle thing, which they use in the American one, where Rita just like lit it and it slowly drained his powers, that candle is his like life meter. So
Yep.
when he goes to the real world to help them, the candle lights, and when it runs out of wax, he can never come back and he's fully
Yeah.
dead. So he only jumps in when they absolutely need him because every second he's there drains his life away, which
Yeah.
is way more of a
Those
metal.
Yeah, those stakes are way higher
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. It's kind of hard to explain for people who weren't a part of it, but I'm like, it was live action martial arts every week,
Yeah.
with big mechs. It was really interesting. I don't know why, but suddenly when you talk about the whole Green Ranger thing, my mind always goes to the episode where, and this might be too specific, but the episode where Jason is in the dungeon with Goldar,
Oh
and
yeah,
is
I had
hi
that on video cassette.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
hiding behind half an inch of fog, like
Yes.
on the ground, and
Yeah.
Goldar can't find him, and
Yeah.
he's just kind of stabbing at the ground,
The
looking for him. That stuff is great.
the classic
M-
Power Rangers thing of another dimension just being a cave with fog.
yeah, just a
Yeah.
studio.
Yeah.
The And then I kind of got off the train after the death of Zordon.
Oh yeah.
That felt like a bit of a, an even time to kind of get out. But,
Mhm.
again, like you said, watching the franchise from afar, I thought that space was actually really well done considering of where that went to. And after
Yeah.
doing a rewatch, I'm like, Andros is like top Red Ranger, man. Like he deserves a lot more respect than people are giving him. I know, you have the Jasons of it all because, of nostalgia. But my boy
Mhm.
was a ranger by himself. He was out there
Yeah,
trying to.
totally.
He showed up at a whole evil dinner about to take everybody out. So like all that stuff. And then the space is when I started to really kind of get tipped off to, oh, there's always kind of gonna be a sixth ranger who takes all the attention. there's, there's always this is gonna start a trend of like, hey, the Red Ranger's cool, but did you check out this guy over here?
Yeah.
He's silver.
Wait till we got silver or gold or green or whichever color we introduced depending on the season.
Yeah, that was so cool. Was there any kind of intimidation factor tackling this lore? Like, did you think diehards were gonna come at you like, hey, no, that character's actually left-handed?
Oh, I mean that always happens with stuff.
Yeah,
Like there's always people who are like, don't mess it up, or I don't like this take on or whatever. Like at the end of the day, what I would tell people is like Joey and I are diehard fans. So
mhm,
we're just doing what the parts of it that excite us the most and that we
yeah,
hope excites everybody else. So far, the response online has been super positive, where people are
awesome.
like, we love that it's not just the Mighty Morphin characters, that it's characters
Right.
from every possible season of the show could show up. That we're doing a lot of deep cuts on stuff. Like Serpentera is one that obviously people know about. There's so much more crazy, fun, deep cut stuff in every issue. There's a visual gag I just wrote yesterday for coming up in issue 7 that will be like a blink and you miss it, but people are gonna love it, like in the background sort of thing.
Okay.
We're playing out a lot of like that type of lore and like unique weapons and vehicles and characters who had plot lines that never got resolved or that we just wanted to see evolve in that way. So really it is really like we're taking it like we took over the show and like we're
Yeah.
like this is what we always wanted the show to end up as is like this big legacy show where people from all the different teams are constantly teaming up and meeting each other and we're seeing the ramifications of stuff. Issue 6 is going to be really fun because it's an issue that I've tried to pitch since Boom got the Power Rangers license. I was always
Whoa.
like, let
Okay.
me do this issue, let me do this issue. And then finally I have it. Nobody can say no to me now. So when issue 6 gets dropped, you guys will know which one that was that I've been like fighting for forever. And will show a little bit again of my Metal Gear love. Will
Awesome.
be that's all I'll say is very Metal Gear coded with
Yeah.
some certain characters. But yeah, it was intimidating. I think we were worried at first, but the like I said, the response like on Reddit, on TikTok, and everything, people seem really hyped for the book, and we're just glad that people are so excited because we like every time we sit down to write it, we're like, this is so fucking cool. Like it's so fun that we're getting to do this with these characters, and then we get to bring this in, or that we get to like play on this character trait that never was really explored, or like give people a fun little thing. And with the time travel stuff people can show up at different points in their lives. So like
Oh,
for one instance, and this won't spoil anything for anybody, we get TJ in both roles of like Red Turbo in one story and Space Blue in another.
yeah.
And he
I was kind
remembers
of ticked
going
that
on
he
the other
got.
mission.
I was kind of ticked that he kind of got demoted a little bit. I like
Yeah, and
Astros,
we
but I
talk
was
about
like,
that.
bro, what's going on here?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a big point of the story is that we talk about that, about his like
awesome.
seeming demotion. and stuff in relation to another character.
Yeah.
Uh, Went through something similar who doesn't get to talk about it as much. So that's the sort of stuff we're doing with it, is exploring those plot threads and stuff, and I'm really excited for people to see it.
What an exciting time. We spoke to David Pepos, who's working on Space Ghost and Speed
Oh yeah.
Racer as well, right? What a like you couldn't have dreamt this early in your comic career that you would be able to write lore for some of your favorite favorite series that have gone on that you probably know better. Like if I had to write Superman, I could probably write Superman pretty well given my knowledge of it, but my heart wouldn't be in it as much as Power Rangers, if that makes sense. Because
Oh, totally.
child
Yeah.
child me has already had these adventures with their toys before, so it would just be kind of a take on that there. Um, but again, child of the '90s, Image Comics fan. What was it like co-creating with Ryan Ottley on the Schlub? Like that must have been like super cool. And what is a what's the collaborative dual writer engine? How does that differ from writing something on your own?
Oh yeah, with Ryan Stegman.
Oh,
Yeah.
Stegman, sorry. Never mind.
It's okay. They're buddies.
Yeah,
They
yeah, yeah,
they,
yeah,
they
yeah,
were
yeah,
buddies. And Ollie's a cool dude. I know him too.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, so Stegman and Tyrell and I are all kind of like on this Discord group together, and our buddies. Like I talk to Stegman every day of my life. We joke around constantly and stuff. He had this story originally called The Unbearable Roger Dalton, which is the
Okay.
acronym is TURD.
Uh,
Which so Roger Dalton's name had always been in there, and he'd always had kind of like the shape of the story, and he and I have like a similar sense of humor. Like I said, we joke around all the time. So he asked Tyrell and I if we wanted to work on it together and if I wanted to co-write it with him. So he had already had like the main outline, and from there we built it out and like broke it down into issues and then decided what would be the best like emotional parts of the story. And for those of you who aren't familiar, the Schlub is about a piece of shit dentist named
yeah,
Roger Dalton who switches bodies with a Thor Superman type character named Cirrus and tries to win back his ex-wife, and it goes horribly, horribly wrong for both him and everyone else on the planet Earth.
yes,
So it's very much like a buddy body swap version of Invincible. Like if you like
yeah,
Invincible, it's like a comedy version of that, of like a lot of fun alternate versions of superheroes and villains. A little bit
yeah.
of Venture Brothers thrown in there, especially with
I can
like the
feel that.
three henchmen,
Yeah,
which were super fun to write. But yeah, we talked about that in this adventure of like one, just like Stegman loves body swap stories, so like
okay,
loves a Freaky Friday situation, and so do I. Like love those kinds of stories. We really want to see like what it would be like if somebody got put in a body in a superhero's body and they just like without fail always made the wrong choice.
right.
Even when they were trying to be good or trying to do the right thing, like they just can't help but sabotage themselves. And what does that look like when you get to know their family and the people they've affected, like whether it's his ex-wife or like his father or brother or sister. So
Mhm.
all of that was always driven to the core of like who Roger is as a person and how he would abuse these powers, and then how he would perceive using them in a good way would be at the end, which is
Yeah,
unique to him as well, in terms of what he
100%.
decides to do at the end of it. But working on it was like a blast. It was basically like just Segment and I texting each other back and forth of just like, oh, and what if he says this and what if he does that? And we did it very Marvel style, where we would talk it out and then I would type it up and we'd send it. We'd put it in like the group thread, and Tyrell would add stuff and everything. And the scripts were very loose. It was just like Marvel style, and then we would go back and add the dialogue afterwards.
Hmm.
So it was really fun to collaborate that way because I'd never gotten to do that before. It was fun to do a whole series that way.
Yeah, it seems like an interesting. I guess I've never known what the machinations are behind co-writing. Are things being vetoed between two writers, or things like how do you solve
Sometimes.
creative disputes? I guess.
Yeah. Well, we didn't. It didn't come to blows, so no
That's
one's
good.
no
That's
one
good. No,
knows yet
no
who's
black eyes.
stronger. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Ryan
Power
was far enough
scaling.
away that I couldn't reach him
Yeah.
from over here. But
Fair.
no. So it's pretty much similar with working with co-writing with Ryan as it is with Joey, where like let's just throw everything out and then we'll talk about what's best for the issue. So there's no ego involved in it. It isn't like this is mine, so I want this sort of
Right,
thing.
right, right.
Like there's plenty of stuff in both the Schlub and Power Rangers that like I pitched. It was like let's do this, and then Ryan or Joey were like, "That's cool, but I don't know that it works or it fits or we have the time for it." And then vice versa, it's been the same way where like they've pitched something and I've been like, I like that, but I don't know that we can fit that in, or like maybe that doesn't completely fit with the character. What that might have worked back then, but now that we've written it, it's different sort
Yeah.
of thing. So at least in my experience, I've never had a bad experience with co-writing like that, of like making something from the ground up. It's
Yeah.
always been really collaborative. In Power Rangers, it works different because we do full script for Alessio and for Enrico. So with that, we tightly plot the whole thing together,
Hmm.
and we have like whole like thank God that Joey did this, but like we have our Excel spreadsheet that we worked on together of like the whole year and all the stories. Then we write out in bullet points what we want to have happen in the issue. And Joey made like templates of like page breakdowns,
Okay.
who's on each page and everything, so that we can keep it all on track, so that we can just take the issue and split it in half. So
Yeah.
depending on who's busiest that week or at that time, one of us takes the front 11 pages, one of us takes the back. We write them, and then we just like Megazord combine them in the middle, and like
That's awesome.
sort of thing. It's like literally like a Zord sequence of them
Yeah.
combining, like when we combine the drafts,
Very
and then
fitting.
just hammer out the little like, well, this line doesn't fit with this line, so let's just change that in the middle.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
but it is very much like that, and so I've been really lucky that it's been a really great process, whether it's been full script or whether it's been more of a Marvel style thing.
The two things I really dug about Schlub, the artwork is absolutely amazing. I thought it
Oh
was
yeah,
really, really
Tyrell again.
funny.
Yeah.
But one is that a very popular series that Marvel did that I don't think took the premise to its where it could go was Superior Spider-Man, right? Where you have a
Oh yeah.
villain's body swap, but Peter never gets to be in the old body. So watching, the hero in this like not equipped body trying to do like action scenes and stuff, I thought was very, very funny. And then I love the introspection because I think that they've kind of broken this down a little bit in the Thor mythos of like, well, maybe Odin isn't great. Like maybe
Yeah.
maybe that warmongering guy who has the entire realms underneath his heel isn't necessarily the good guy in this, nor is his son. So I love the Cloudfather. I love the design of him. I got like the Kirby vibes and stuff.
Oh yeah. Big
Yeah.
cards.
So like it really did feel like a love letter to comics of the past, but also in a world where you can be ridiculous, why not pull some of these threads that other people may have been afraid to pull?
Oh, totally. Yeah. And a lot of it's inspired too by like Walt Simonson's
Oh
Thor
yeah,
on Run, and or Run on Thor, sorry. Thor on
yeah.
Run. Run on Run. Yeah, you can tell I needed more coffee today. But yeah, a lot of it was inspired by that. And even to the point where one thing that nobody's ever brought up, which I'm gonna bring up now, is
All
that
right.
Sirius's sister,
Uh-huh.
this is intentional, does not have a name in the book,
Oh yeah.
because we were going to reveal later that her father never gave her one
Oh damn.
because he's such an asshole. And
Right,
like
right, right.
Oh
and
wow.
that was going to be like, should we do more in the future? We're going to explore her taking things over, because like imagine if Loki had it so bad they never even gave Loki a name. Like
Right.
that they treated him.
Yeah.
So like that was like the level of things we were thinking about, of like, what if Odin really was a dick? Like, or
Yeah.
like really was a bad person, and like had built Thor up based on a lie of like
Yeah.
how great that they were and everything. So yeah, the fact that you enjoyed that aspect of it, of like the like bad Odin, basically
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
bad Odin. I'm glad that you picked up on that.
And not for nothing, I am a former veteran. I served for 4.5 years, two tours overseas,
Thank you for your
and
service.
and you also kind of get that revelation about America at some point in your
Yes.
life where you go,
Not surprised.
wait a
Yeah.
minute, wait a second. So that totally worked for me. And yeah, I was getting major Loki vibes from the sister, and I like you said, I remember because there's a lot of now there's been a lot of rehabilitation for Loki, and we've kind of seen his sort of journey into comics and stuff. But it's very interesting when you watch that first Thor movie where the dad has his two sons and is like, well, one of you guys are gonna be king, and then just like walks away.
Yes.
And he's like, you guys deal with that. That
Fight
immense,
amongst yourselves. Yeah,
yes,
for
yes.
my amusement.
And then like,
My money is on that one.
yeah. By the
Yes.
way, I'm not gonna.
One of
If
you.
anyone's wondering, yeah.
Yeah.
So having that kind of unfold in the slub, I thought was really, 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 really funny. And then also like having a protagonist that can't help but go fall back into, like we were talking about, the primitive nature of like being petty and being,
Mhm.
having a temper and all this kind of stuff. It's stuff that we just have in our DNA and we're constantly fighting. So to see somebody with superpowers, not, I'm just gonna tank this boat, like
Yeah.
I'm just like,
Oh,
in the
totally.
grand scheme of things, what is that gonna solve? Nothing. But it made you feel
Yeah.
better for 10 minutes or whatever. So having sort of a superhero, an all-powerful being, still do little petty things because we can't help it as humans. I thought that was really apt to kind of show. I thought that you guys really nailed that there.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it plays on the whole idea of everybody's like, if only I had these powers. It was like, if
Yeah.
you just had those powers and you were a piece of shit, you'd still be a piece of shit. Like that's
Yes.
the
Yes. You'd be a super piece of
that's the revelation. You
shit.
don't magically become a better person. You have to work to become a better person.
Yeah. You've got a bunch of projects, like we said, out. There's a bunch of projects about to come out. When you're constantly like breaking stories, scripting your own universes and stuff, do you still find time to actively read comics for fun?
Oh,
And
all the
if so,
time.
what books right now on the shelves are kind of capturing your attention?
So current stuff coming out, like I said, I love Absolute Martian Manhunter. That's one of my favorite books coming out. I also really love Red Roots. It's an image book
Oh
that's coming out
yes,
right now.
yes.
Like I really enjoyed the first couple issues of that. Old stuff I'm reading right now. I'm going back through. I never got to finish James Robinson and Tony Harris's Starman, which I don't know if you guys have ever read that. Oh, it's so
Yes.
good. And I haven't gotten to read it in a long time because when I got back into comics in a big bad way, after being away for a while. Not because I gave it up or anything, I just didn't have money.
Yeah.
Growing up for a long period of time, when I discovered like they had comics and stuff at the library, my library had the first three hardcover volumes of those Starman omnibus things.
Yeah.
So I just picked it up on a whim. And I was actually telling Ryan Stegman the other day, like I spent a whole afternoon on a park bench in the summer, like drinking a coffee and reading all of those like devouring
Yeah.
them. I never
Yeah.
got to finish it. So I just caught up and got back to where I was and I'm reading it. And it's so great. And it's such a unique like DC thing of like that sort of thing we're capturing now of like taking a character and making them important just by giving them an awesome story. Or the
Yeah.
fact that back then like the story book had 80 issues.
Yeah.
It was 80 issues
Yeah.
of a guy
That
in
was
like a
it.
jacket with anti-tank goggles and a cosmic rod. Yeah, like of like a new take on a golden age character. Like I just love that era of comics and being able to do that. So I'm reading that right now and really enjoying it. But yeah, I read a ton. Like everything that comes out, I try to read everything that I can. I read novels, I read nonfiction stuff, I watch a ton of movies. So I need to some days when I just like I feel too stressed out, like I just need to recharge the creative battery. And
Yeah.
whether that's like watching a really, great movie, like this wouldn't be one people would think to be one of my favorites, but All the President's Men, love that
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
Uh, or I watched something really goofy and dumb, like Waxwork, which I just watched. That
Yeah.
horror movie, one and
Yeah.
two, yesterday.
Whoa.
Absolutely
Double feature.
bonkers. So whether it's either a spectrum of that, like all of it gives me life and recharges me. So I always think it's very important to like read as much as possible and not just to get ideas, but just to remember why you love it and to like just be surrounded by books and literature and stuff of all types. So I'm always reading, but yeah, I say Absolute Martian Manhunter is one of my favorite ones that's coming out right now. I just love like the artwork in it and the colors and like the cool ideas of like showing the psychic stuff on the page and how that translates to like smoke and stuff. I just think it's really special.
Yeah. I saw people reading it and they're like, I think Dennis Camp has some political stuff to say. I'm like, he's had political stuff to say since issue one. Like, we've been doing this.
Yeah,
Like,
he
it's
hasn't
just
been
hitting
very
people now.
quiet about that. Yeah.
It's just hitting people over the head now. But like, I got into his assorted crisis events, and that book makes me
Oh
cry. Like,
yeah.
I read that book, and I'm just like, he's tapped into something about the human experience here, that's really getting me. And I think that we just are riding this wave now. There's been gatekeepers so long on some of the various pieces of media that we've been a part of, and that have kind of raised us and made us into the people that we are today. And a lot of our generation is putting their hands back into the toy box and coming out with really inventive, especially when you think about like the lower indie stuff. I mean, we have this rise of horror, right, with back rooms and stuff like Obsession. But I even go back to think about like when I saw Everything Everywhere All at Once for the first time,
Oh
and I'm
yeah.
like, we've done multiverse stories out the wazoo, but this tapped into something different. There's still more stuff to do. There's still more stuff to say, and I just love that we have this opportunity now with so many different publishers. We have the Absolute Universe, but it's a rising tide that's raising the rest of the ships.
Oh
If you're
yeah.
going in for Absolute Batman, someone looks over and says, "Oh, look at that space book, that new Space Age. I might, grab that." And that's just a super awesome time. And the idea that at any given time you have three different books from different publishers all on the same shelf. That's got to be kind of exciting as a kid who walked into comic shops at one point. How's that?
Oh, it feels great, man, especially to be like, I feel really lucky too that this past year with the new Space Age and Superman Father Tomorrow, Iron Coffin, and Power Rangers, like not only do I am I getting to work on a bunch of books with talented people, but they're very four different flavors
Yeah.
of stuff because like one thing I've never really subscribed to is like only writing one type of thing because I love, like I said, all types of stories. I love like journalistic thrillers like All the President's Men. I love cheesy
Yeah.
horror movies like Chopping Mall. Like
Yeah.
I have a wide range of stuff that I like, as well as like big two superhero stories. I don't want to write just one thing. Like whenever I approach a story, I come up with the idea and the emotional core first and the genre second. Like
Mm.
I don't sit down and go like, I'm going to write a horror story. I'm like, I want to do a story about Dracula fighting Nazis in World War II, and it's going to be scary. So I'm going to write it as horror sort of thing. And like, this is the emotional core that I want. So I've never wanted to put myself in that box. So like, just getting this year to show and flex of like the fact that I love to write in all these different genres. Like genre doesn't matter. Like
Yeah.
it's the core of the story and like the emotional part and and just like also the fun hook. Like we always forget like it just sounds fun that Dracula kills Nazis on a train. Like and that's
Yeah.
fine. Like that's just as valid as any literary novel that comes out. Just like if it gives you life and you're having fun with it, that's great. And that's like I always want to impart an emotional story and stuff. And being able to do that in four different complete flavors this past year has been amazing, as well as like four completely different publishers.
Yeah. It's rare but extremely deserving. What's something that 10-year-old Kenny would have pinched himself, a moment that's happened in your comic book career where you're just like, how did I end up here? Or, end up doing this
I
kind of
mean, this
stuff.
past year, I'd like
Yeah,
it's
sure.
probably like the this past year it's probably the Power Rangers thing of just like me traveling back in time and kneeling in front of 10-year-old Kenny and be like, you're gonna be in charge of like making it work that all of them come together.
Yes.
And let me be like, what do you mean? I was like, you have to figure out the fake science of how all of them team up and then write the stories. And
Yeah.
that is like I do love my fake science degree
Yes.
that
Yes.
like I don't know how actual I was in like advanced placement physics and stuff. I don't remember half of that. I can tell you how like a lightsaber works or how time travel in the Power Rangers world works or like how the made
Right.
up morphin grid works and everything because I'm able to just do that and I'm happy to do it anytime my friends need an explanation for something in a book or just when I'm co-writing. They're like, "How's this gonna work?" And I'm like, "Okay, so this is how they'll travel through time, and this will work because of this thing." And so I'm just really good at the thank God we invented the so and so thing so we can smoke in space, like
Yeah.
line
Yeah.
from Thank You for Smoking. Like, that's one of my favorite things is like I should just make a fake science degree and
Yeah.
put it on the wall.
No, that's amazing. I think of how affected we were as kids, like watching the chasm open and swallow the original generation of Zords and stuff, and just
Oh
being like,
yeah.
No.
That
And
was
now,
yeah, that was detrimental in the mutiny when like all the Zords get destroyed.
yeah,
Then we get the Thunder Zords, which are dope. So I
yeah.
love those.
Oh, that's amazing. Frank, I'm gonna let you come in on this a little bit too, before we wrap this up.
Um, all right. Well, I guess I'm going to circle back. You made the comment that you were working on the Schlub Marvel style.
Uh-huh.
So first of all, I think it's ironic. George kind of compared it to Superior Spider-Man, and then Stegman worked on Superior Spider-Man,
Yeah.
Hmm,
so that had to be a little surreal for him. But do you have any pitches, any intent, any desire to work for Marvel? That's one of the ones you haven't done anything with.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Anytime they want to tap me, I'm good to go. Like I love the Marvel characters just as much as I love the DC ones. It is weird though. I've found, especially, so also in my reading, I've been going back and reading a bunch of the cosmic stuff from around the Annihilation event.
Oh, okay.
Because
Oh,
like
Yeah.
good
when I
stuff.
discovered that stuff, I loved it. Like I love the Richard Rider Nova stuff from around there, the Guardians of the Galaxy book that spun out of that, that inspired the movie and stuff. I've been reading like a bunch of Peter David's Hulk run.
Yeah.
I love I read a lot of Untold Tales of Spider-Man as a kid by
Yeah.
Busick because it was like they made it
Mm.
affordable. It was
Yeah.
cheap
Yeah. 100%.
and I could afford it as a kid. So I've read a bunch of that. I've been going back and reading. I read like the J. Michael Straczynski run of Spider-Man, like through the Epic collections recently. Did a rerun of Bendis's Daredevil. I really tend to love the street level characters and then the cosmic characters.
Yeah.
Like I really like vibe with both of those. But I mean, I love them all. Like I love Brubaker's Cap.
Yeah.
I really love that. I don't think I've ever heard many people say this. Like I really love 90s Iron Man comics.
Yeah.
Like especially like when they introduce like the modular armor and stuff.
Yeah.
It's
Did you
always
watch the
just like
series at all? Did you watch the
I
animated
did a
series
little
of
bit. I
that?
didn't see a ton of
Okay.
it as a kid. I didn't see the
Okay.
first season. I saw the second season with the like, ew,
Yeah.
like,
With the mullet.
Iron Man.
That mullet,
And when I
man.
was a kid, I bought, I don't know if it was an issue of Force Works or an issue of Iron Man, but it came with an animation cell from the show. Like it was a promotional thing, and it had like
Oh
three of the
yeah.
armors painted on a clear piece of like acetate or vellum or something.
That's
And so
pretty
that's
cool.
when I found out about the show because I bought a comic that had it. Yeah, I love all that stuff, man. Like I love them just as much as the DC characters is just it's just a different flavor. It's like pizza and hamburgers. Like I love both of them. Like don't make me pick one and say I could never have another. So
Right, right,
I would
right.
love to come over and you know dine on a hamburger at some point if Marvel's. And I'm not saying one's a hamburger or pizza. I don't want a weird
Yeah,
fight
yeah,
to
yeah,
start right now.
right.
Whichever one I haven't had recently, just imagine it's that one. I don't want to fuel any
Yeah,
fires that people arrive because like the truth is creators like we love both of them.
yeah,
Like like we wouldn't pick just one over the other. Yeah, I would love to work at Marvel and would love to do stuff over there, whether it would be like long form stuff or even just like minis or OGNs and stuff. Like I do have a lot of fun like coming in and just doing a mini series sort of thing because like one of my favorite recent books from Marvel was my buddy Danny Warren Johnson, his Beta Ray Bill book.
yeah, yeah.
Love that. I love
I
those
just snagged the number
books.
one at a Comic Con, and I was like, Argent Star, just really,
Oh yeah, so great,
really
and it's
amazing.
getting an artist edition, which is
Yes,
fucking dope.
yeah,
And is well deserving. But like
yeah.
coming in and doing unique takes on that sort of stuff, I absolutely love. So yeah, it's like Marvel wants me to come play, I'm happy to come play.
I'm glad you did the clarification because we were gonna go with Kenny Porter says uh, Marvel is hamburgers.
Marvel is a
That was
hamburger, DC is pizza.
that's where we were gonna go. That's what this
Somebody's
interview is
like,
gonna be
"This is
titled.
crazy. Everybody knows that DC is chicken fingers.
Yes,
Everybody
yes.
knows that when you think of DC, it's chicken fingers. It's all delicious.
Always, always. Yeah, if you love waffles, you hate pancakes. You know how this
Yeah.
goes. Um, but yeah, you've got just to wrap up, you have an incredible slate of projects out right now, hitting comic stores soon. There's stuff already on the shelves. The trade for New Space Age
Yeah.
is coming out.
It's out now. It just came
It's
out
out.
recently. Yep.
It just came out recently. My brain's all in
Oh,
a
that's okay,
mess.
man. I feel you. Yeah.
But for readers out there looking to add to their pull list, what can you tell them about things to get hyped for, like for Operation Iron Coffin, the massive scale that you're working on with Power Rangers Unlimited, to those who may have just gotten part of this conversation from what we're doing here, what can you tell them about the future for Kenny Porter?
Yeah, well, like obviously I'm busy right now, which is great. If you want to go down to the comic shop, like I said, the great thing about the stuff I've been working on is there's a different flavor for everything. There's like sci-fi adventure with Superman Father of Tomorrow, horror action stuff with Operation Iron Coffin, and then big bombastic superhero Saturday morning stuff with Power Rangers. So I would say just like go down to your local comic shop, tell them you want the whole Kenny Porter gamut, and to just
Yeah,
add them all to
man.
your pull list. Because like I said, we've got action horror, we've got science fiction stuff, we've got like Power Rangers martial arts type stuff, which we even switch up every issue. I have more stuff in development I can't talk about yet, but
Yes.
some more possible Big Two stuff, some more creator owned stuff. So I'm staying busy. But yeah, just go down to the comic book shop. Tell them to add them all to your pull list. In terms of shows, I'll be at San Diego Comic-Con.
Okay.
I'll be doing some signings there with comic sketch art as well as a Power Rangers panel, and
Whoa,
then an Operation Iron Coffin signing as well with IDW.
that's so
And
cool.
then I'll be at New York Comic-Con as well.
Yeah, we'll have correspondence at New York. We might even have correspondence at San Diego, so we'll have them come by.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah,
Spread
come hit me
spread
up.
the
Yeah.
love there. But yeah, man, this has been an incredible conversation. I really like digging into some of your inspirations here. You wear your inspirations on your sleeve, but you also wear your heart on your sleeve, and I think that's why your books resonate with so many people. These are Herculean tasks to take on some of these characters that mean so much. You're effectively borrowing them from people's hearts, and people are hoping that you take care of them in the time that you're meant to handle them. And I think you've been doing a great job in a world where I think creativity. I think some people on this earth are just born to create. I'm glad that you found your angle. I'm glad that you found your
Thank
books.
you,
I'm
man.
glad. I know that this is the beginning, right? Like you're gonna start really breaking down some humongous doors, and I'm just glad that we're part of this journey at all. And this conversation is a part of that. But yeah, I want to thank you for being so transparent and being so earnest in this conversation, but also in the books about the things that you've experienced and how people can get past them. I do think that, again, this is a very unique medium where we can instill the best parts of humanity in these books and give them out, and it becomes contagious. So I can't not believe that some of these books have meant something to somebody, have improved their lives, have made them feel like they're not alone. Sometimes these books are like that song on the radio where you're like, damn, did they write that about me? Did they write that for me? What's going on here? And you only get there with a level of vulnerability, with putting everything that you have right there on the page. And so I want to thank you not only for this conversation, but for the, I would say, not a pun, but the fearlessness of putting your heart out there on the line there, and for having this conversation with us.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And those are such kind words. And it really is like, I just want to be able to share that love I have of stories with other people by being real with people and sharing
Yeah.
things. So the fact that you gave me a platform today to talk about that, I can't tell you how happy I am that we got to discuss it.
Yeah, and hopefully you won't be a stranger. We'd love to have you back
Oh yeah, of
talking about
course.
all this kind of stuff. I got to talk to you about Rito Repulso and why their last names would be different even though they're related. It's all
Yeah,
it's all
it's
it's all
weird.
it's a little weird. It's a little weird.
It's odd.
Uh, maybe you'll bring in Dulcia. We'll talk about all that kind of stuff. But ladies and gentlemen, go ahead, pick up New Space Age. You're not gonna regret it. Operation Iron Coffin is coming out soon. You want to talk about absolute bonkers? Those are two completely different shades. And then Power Rangers Unlimited, the beating heart of the Power Rangers franchise, is coming soon, and you guys are gonna want to be a part of it. So make sure you grab those books. Make sure you write Kenny Porter just in big letters on your pull list in general. And then we always like to end this off by saying to remember that you, yes, you are worthy. Thanks, guys.